So the Power PMAC IDE, this is a true integrated development environment. This is based on Visual Studio. So if you're a C programmer or do some C programming, you might already be familiar with Visual Studio. This is what our IDE is based on. It's the redistributable version of Visual Studio. IDE runs as a standalone application, so it has its own components for the Visual Studio that it runs with. It's very powerful, has this sophisticated interactive environment with various screens used to integrate and develop your application on your Power PMAC. So it has Visual Studio style programming, project system, debuggers, capabilities for C and background programs, and script PLCs. And this is a very important feature of Power PMAC, is the scripting feature, especially for those of you who are coming from the Turbo PMAC world. Scripting is very much like what it was in the, very similar to the previous version, but again, in many ways, much more advanced. There are tools for backup, restore, and recovery. There is a system setup tool. One of the nice features about the system setup tool is you don't really have to understand a lot about what's going on behind the scenes in Power PMAC. You need to only know the parameters about your motor, about your drive, what your feedback devices are, what type of feedback devices they are, and then the system setup tool will automatically configure Power PMAC, what we call the structures, and I'll be talking about that very shortly. That is the main stay of what makes Power PMAC Power PMAC. So the system setup tool, it has databases of all of our amplifiers. You can add motors that you would use in your environment, and different types of feedback devices. There's also an EtherCAT setup tool, a macro setup tool for those that are interested in macro features with Power PMAC. And this is all free. There is no charge for the Power PMAC IDE. Another piece of software that we have is the component library. So this allows you to create your own custom HMI on a Windows-based computer. It's SSH protocol based. Kurt talked a little bit about starting up a communication with the Power PMAC. You connect up with an Ethernet port. There's SSH communication. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail. We'll actually connect up. Did you guys get an opportunity to connect up yet to the Power PMAC with that? I'll be doing that in much greater detail here very shortly. The component library that we sell, which this is an actual purchased item. So it's a communications library for the Windows application. And it uses the same library that the IDE uses. This was developed in C#.NET and supports Framework 2.0 and above. And there's a number of windowless objects that you have in this component library: synchronous GPASCII, asynchronous, direct synchronous OS, asynchronous OS. There's what we call error unsolicited, available Windows objects, and terminal. I won't go into the details of what is in the component library. We'll leave this till a little bit later on. When we get to the C section, we'll talk about some more of the details of the component library and how it integrates with Power PMAC. I believe on Thursday we'll be talking about C in context with Power PMAC.